College basketball too early top 25 rankings after transfer portal NBA draft. The transfer portal has closed, the NBA draft is complete, and the pieces are mostly in place for the coming men's college basketball season. We previously did our too early top 25 preseason rankings after Florida finished as national champions in April. Now, 3 months later, we revisit whether the Gators and others have moved up or down in our projections. Unsurprisingly, the list is mostly filled with teams from the Big 12, Big 10, and SEC. But the top half of the rankings have a balanced spread across the 5 major conferences, portending a wide-open race for who will be crowned national champion in Indianapolis at the end of the season. For reference, the previous rankings are in parentheses. Houston, 1. The defending national runner-up loses stalwarts L.J. Cryer and J'Wan Roberts, but is poised to make another run to the title game behind one of the top recruiting classes in the country, led by 5-star forward Chris Senac Jr. and guard Isaiah Harwell. Returning contributors include guards Milos Uzan and Emmanuel Sharp and front-court defensive standout Joseph Tugler. Duke, 2. Cooper Flagg, Cone Keuppel, and Kaman Malouge are off to the NBA along with Tyrese Proctor, but John Shire put together another top recruiting class. Next year's group will be led by wingers Cameron and Caden Boozer, the twin sons of former Blue Devil star Carlos Boozer. Also arriving are guards Dame Sarr and Sebastian Wilkins. They'll join several veterans who opted to return, including Isaiah Evans and Caleb Foster. Connecticut, 3. 3 in a row wasn't in the cards, but a third title in 4 years isn't out of the question for UConn. Liam McNeely is gone after just 1 year in stores, but reinforcements are coming for Danny Hurley, whose top 5 recruiting class features a pair of McDonald's All-Americans and an international prospect from Down Under. Postman Eric Ribe and guard Braylon Mullins comprise the domestic talent, and Australian wingman Jacob Furphy will arrive in the States this summer. Georgia transfer Silas DeMary will provide even more backcourt depth. In addition, veteran forward Alex Caravan and rising junior Solo Ball return. Purdue, 11. The news that rising seniors Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Wren would be back along with sharpshooter Fletcher Lawyer vaulted the Boilermakers into the top spot in the Big Ten projections for 2025-2026. The veteran-laden team with league title and Final Four potential also returned C.J. Cox and Jakari Harris, and big man Oscar Clough, South Dakota State, arrives via the portal to provide the low-post presence that was lacking in 2024-2025. Florida, 8. All-America guard and Final Four MVP Walter Clayton will be hard to replace. Backcourt mate Elijah Martin and Will Richard are also gone, but the Gators will defend their title with most of their inside players returning. Thomas Hogg, Micah Handlockton, Alex Condon, and Ruben Chinyelu are all back. The arrival of transfers Boogie Flan from Arkansas and Xavier Lee from Princeton means there should be little to no drop-off in perimeter production. Michigan, 9. Despite losing its top 3 players, things could get even better in year 2 for coach Dusty May in Ann Arbor, thanks to a huge haul in the transfer portal. Yaxel Lendeberg from Alabama Birmingham elected to forego the NBA for another year and should thrive in the Wolverine system. The newcomers also include point guard Elliot Cadeau from North Carolina and front court players Morez Johnson Jr. from Illinois and Ade Mara from UCLA. Michigan also brings in an impact freshman and combo guard Trey McKinney and another top 100 recruit in Winters Grady. Brigham Young, 5. After making the Sweet 16 for the second time since 1981, BYU is poised for a big year with the arrival of hyped freshman A.J. Dybansa. He'll join a rotation that lost point guard Igor Demin to the NBA, but brings back Dawson Baker and forwards Richie Saunders and Mihailo Boskovich. If Dybansa is as good as expected, the Cougars could be a serious threat for the Final Four. Alabama, 6. The Crimson Tide should again be among the SEC favorites. Losing catalyst Mark Sears puts pressure on the backcourt to replicate his scoring production and leadership. But the return of guard LeBaron Fillon for a sophomore season will help. Adon Holloway should take up much of that slack as well, along with Miami, Florida transfer Jaleel Bethea. Inside additions Noah Williamson from Bucknell and Taylor Boldbowen from Florida State should take on big roles. St. John's, 13.
Now that Rick Pitino has instilled the work ethic needed to bring the Storm program back to prominence, he hopes the shooters he's brought in via the portal will improve the team's accuracy. Bryce Hopkins from Providence should provide an immediate boost in that regard if he can stay healthy, with Josen Sanan from Arizona State and Ian Jackson from North Carolina adding backcourt depth. Big East Player of the Year R.J. Lewis is gone and Simeon Wilcher transferred out, but Zuby Ejiofor is back to anchor the interior. UCLA 4. Mick Cronin has put together a transfer class that should make the Bruins one of the best teams in the Big Ten. The biggest addition is point guard Donovan Dent from New Mexico, who led the Mountain West with 20.4 points per game this season and may have been the best overall player in the portal. Another 3 incoming transfers join a roster headlined by returning starters forwards Eric Daly Jr. and Tyler Bilodeau. Louisville 10. While several key pieces behind last year's rebound under Coach Kelsey have been lost to graduation, Louisville was a sought-after destination for a strong transfer class. The impact newcomers include Isaac McNeely from Virginia, Ryan Conwell from Xavier, and Adrian Woolley from Tennessee State. The Cardinals will add another perimeter threat in freshman Michael Brown and will get a boost from the return of big man Olive Khalifa, who redshirted last season after knee surgery. Texas Tech 7. Texas Tech's roster has taken shape after reigning Big 12 Player of the Year J.T. Toppin and guard Christian Anderson opted to return to Lubbock. This pair will set the pace for another run at the Final Four after coming up 1 win shy this March. The Red Raiders transfer haul includes sharpshooting guards Donovan Atwell from UNC Greensboro and Tyree Bryan from Santa Clara, along with forward LeJeune Watts from Washington State and center Luke Bongaboy from Virginia Commonwealth. Iowa State 14. A very deep roster took a hit with Eastern Washington transfer Mason Williams needing hip surgery that is likely keeps him out for the season. But Iowa State has the bodies to replace that projected production and make a March Madness run. Newcomers such as forwards Blake Buchanan from Virginia and forward Eric Mulder from Purdue-Fort Wayne and a highly rated recruiting class will join holdovers in Taman Leipzig, Joshua Jefferson, and Milan Momcilovic to make the Cyclones a national player. Kentucky 16. Getting leading scorer Otega Owe back in the fold for another year will keep the Wildcats in the mix for the SEC crown under second-year coach Mark Pope. One huge factor that could determine where Kentucky lands is the health of sophomore transfer Jaden Quantaine, Arizona State, one of the top prospects in the nation and a potential difference-maker on the defensive end. Quantaine injured his knee last season, but is expected to be ready in the fall. Kentucky also upgraded its backcourt by adding Jalen Lowe from Pittsburgh and Denzel Aberdeen from Florida. Tennessee 19. Tennessee is looking at a roster overhaul with just one returning starter and center Felix Okpara. They need to land production and increased action from forwards Cade Phillips and J.D. Estrella, while blending in point guard Jacoby Gillespie, Maryland, guard Amari Abram, Louisiana Tech, and forward Jalen Carey, Vanderbilt. Tennessee will also lean on a really strong traditional recruiting class starring 5-star forward Nate Ament. Wisconsin 19. Wisconsin will build around guard John Blackwell, who took his name out of the draft in favor of another year in Madison. He'll team up with former Florida Atlantic and San Diego State guard Nick Boyd, will form one of the top backcourts in the Big Ten. The Badgers also brought in a deep threat in wing Andre Rohde from Virginia and a very promising young big man in sophomore Austin Rapp from Portland, the reigning West Coast Conference Rookie of the Year. Arizona 23. Guard Jaden Bradley will be one of the best players in the Big 12. Returning role players in forward Tobe Awaka and guard Anthony DeLorso add experience and production after last year's Sweet 16 berth. But the Wildcats are going to be young, with 6 freshmen among the 7 new additions to the roster. Included in this group are prized recruits Dwayne Aristode and Koa Pete. Gonzaga 20. Even though Mark Fu is losing his strong backcourt of Ryan Nembhard, Nolan Hickman, and Khalif Battle, the front court is made up of a group of stars. Graham Hike is back and is a Conference Player of the Year contender. He'll be paired with Braden Huff, but the real key is the addition of Grand Canyon transfer Tyon Grant Foster, a 25-year-old perennial scorer that could be the playmaker for the Zags. Former Big Sky Player of the Year Steele Venters will finally suit up after missing back-to-back seasons with injuries, putting the Bulldogs in great position for their final year in the West Coast Conference. Arkansas 12. The momentum from the Sweet 16 run should continue for John Calipari as he was able to bring back some of last year's core. DJ Wagner and Carter Knox stayed, but the Razorbacks took a hit when Adjuthiro decided to go to the NBA. Still, Calipari brings in another talented recruiting class headlined by guard Darius Acuff Jr., who has SEC Freshman of the Year potential. Other incoming freshman Malik Thomas could provide solid production off the bench. Creighton 21. Greg McDermott knew replacing Ryan Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth was the top priority, and he brought in transfers that should keep the Blue Jays among the Big East contenders. Iowa transfers Josh Dix and Owen Freeman will assume the leadership, while guard Nick Graves from Charlotte and forward Blake Harper from Howard will be X-factors after they each led their previous schools in scoring last season. Plus, you can't forget the potential from Serbian 7-footer Alexa Dimitrijevic. Kansas 17. There were plenty of swings and misses by Bill Self in the transfer portal.